This is a test of the Boundary Park alert system. Hello and welcome to the Latics Football Phone-In.
Hello.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Dave.
And we're in our little booth.
In our booth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you?
Not bad. Good win last night.
Yeah. 4 goals in second half.
It was dire first half though, weren't it?
Oh, you know what? It was so boring the first half. We were just talking through most of it, weren't we? It was like one of those games where you're here to see your mates because it was just so dull.
Yeah.
And people were saying, like on WhatsApps and stuff, like, it's much better. And because I didn't go to the Halifax game, it's much better. I was like, is it? Because it's just so dull and boring. But they really came to life in the second half, didn't it?
Yeah, well, he must have given him a rocket because he needed it. We were outplayed, weren't we? Midfield was just dissected every minute. They scored a very scrappy goal. We had about 4 or 5 chances to clear, but we knew it was coming, weren't we?
Yeah.
But credit to them, they came back.
I'd be interested to see what people think tonight. Obviously, we've got a very special guest on this evening, Pete Wild, Latics
legend,
hero from Fulham away. Had the very brief spell, but certainly made the most of it, and got a lot of admiration amongst the fan base. He's one of our own. He's a proper fan, so he's on here tonight as the manager of Barrow FC, but also and primarily as a Latics fan. So we'll be talking to him about Latics. We'll be talking to you a lot about the game last night and maybe the Halifax performance. And obviously, Pete's a former manager of Halifax Town as well. I mean, it's chalk and cheese, isn't it, between Saturday and Tuesday, which is always a little bit disconcerting, I think. But what I will say, and I'd like everyone, I think that Dagenham and Redbridge last night did what Dorking did, and they were too exposed. And teams that are exposed as that at the back, we've punished. But teams that are more stubborn, we've still struggled against, haven't we, to break down? And so that's the test now, to break down. Gateshead and Maidstone are both going to be trying to defend, I think, aren't they, when they come to us?
To be fair, though, I think Unsworth, David Unsworth, it was a 4-4-2 in the first half. It just clearly didn't work. And then it went to a 4-3-3. And Tollett had a bit more of a free roll and kept dropping in. But credit to Dan Gardner coming on for Mark Shelton. He hasn't played a lot. He had a lot of game time. I thought he fitted in really well.
Yeah, he didn't like more like his old self, didn't he?
Yeah, and John Rooney as well. I thought he had a really great game as well.
Well, the difference is with Rooney he's somebody who knows how to look after the football, doesn't he? When he gets on his touch, he's much better. Yeah. He makes a bit of time and a bit of space for himself and picks a pass, where we've not had that kind of composure. So
I think one play we did miss though was Jordan Clark. I'm only joking. No, well, the kidding. Will Sutton came in, did really well. Josie Fiani. What a great signing! He's just class. Him,
yeah, he's been really class. Good on it, and he was absolutely buzzing when he scored that goal as well, which was really nice to see. And I think all the players were. I think it was so nice that all the goals were scored at our end, down the Rochdale Road end, and everybody seemed to be really, really buzzing.
Another great performance was Aaron Bannister, who was the referee, gave a great penalty for the second penalty. Well, both of them. They should never have been given, in my opinion.
I thought you said the handball one was by the book. It
came off the player's leg and hit his hand. So I checked the laws against.
But he had his arm out, didn't he?
Yeah, but if it comes off your body in close proximity, it's not a penalty. Right. So he went with the shout.
The first one was
the Rochdale Road end.
So...
I know the laws because I'm the king of the laws.
What you mean when you look them up?
Yeah,
because you didn't know until
you didn't know, did you?
I'm not a ref, am I? I don't go under the name King of the Laws.
Mate. You don't have the minerals to be a ref, mate.
No, I've got the flair to be
a flair star. To be the ref.
Yeah, on the pitch. Anyway, enough of us two talking shite. Should we bring Pete Wild
show people how to show people
how to call first if you don't know? If you want to speak to Pete, this is how you do it. The Latics Football Phone-In is live every Wednesday between 8:30 and 9:30. If you want to join the conversation, then you need to join us on our StreamYard link, which looks something like this. You'll find the StreamYard link in our pinned post on Facebook, Twitter
and in the comments section on YouTube. So if you want to join the debate, that's how you do it.
That is how you do it.
How you
So
doing, indeed?
anyway, he doesn't need much of an introduction, so we won't give him one. Here's Pete Wild. All right, Pete.
Fellas, you all right?
Yeah.
Very well, thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Not a problem.
So you did a bit of Googling on us, found out what's it, and still decided to come on. So fair play to you.
Yeah, that's our bloke with no top on the other week.
Well,
But don't worry, he's here. He's lurking in the back room here, but he's currently clothed. He's sat in a vehicle. If he was sat in a vehicle unclothed, he would not be coming on. That's a step too far.
And also, if you did Google us and there was some bad things that came up, then it's all Matt, not me. It's just mere coincidence.
Glad to see you got off with it, lads.
Well, it was Matt, not me. I was just an alibi.
Allegedly.
It's all allegedly. Yeah, and yeah.
Anyway, how are you, Pete?
I'm good, mate. I'm good, thank you.
Are you enjoying life at Barrow?
I am. Really good football club, really nice people. They actually, and I've said this a lot of times, they actually, one of the big draws to Barrow, if there is a draw to go into Barrow, is that they remind me of Oldham people, very honest, very hardworking, very industrious. And I think that's probably why I was quite drawn. I had very lucky, quite a lot of offers, and that was the one that sort of struck me.
And freezing.
Yeah. All the teams that walk past, I sit there at my office window and they walk in, you think, you don't want to be here, you don't want to be here. Great. It's good fun at half one on a Saturday.
You do train in Manchester, though, don't you, due to location as well, which is, is it Hotwood Hall you guys train at? Is it sort of that way?
We've just moved to De La Salle. Well, this season moved to De La Salle in Salford, back to back with Salford Royal Hospital, basically for recruitment purposes. We can get a better standard of player down here than unfortunately we can in Barrow. And hopefully longer term, the aim is to go back to Barrow and have a training base in Barrow, but more when they're established as a Football League club than any time soon. And then on a Friday afternoon after training, we travel to Barrow, we do all our community work, and we stay in Barrow Friday night, ready for the game Saturday.
Works out all right for you then, doesn't it, as well, really?
Yeah.
On a personal level, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it means I can live at home. I've got a young family. Didn't really want to move away from the northwest. So, really pleased with the sort of the offer and the deal, really.
In terms of, obviously you were at Halifax last season. I was at I was commentating on the Stockport Halifax game. The final game for Stockport, and I could see the disappointment on your face in that game because it was Stockport's day, to be fair, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What did you think? When it came to you leaving Halifax and the Barrow situation, how did that all come about? Was it sort of were you always going to leave at the end of the season, or was it were you looking to stay on, or
Well, I mean that day, it was Stockport's day, and I think it always was going to be. But in terms of me moving, I was across last season. There was so lucky. We had so many different types of offer across the season. We probably could have left about 4 times across the season for jobs that were some were random, but some were very good jobs, and we were very lucky that these jobs were being presented in front of us, and we just felt we wanted to stay and see that season out and that 3-year cycle to see where we had. I still had a year left on my deal at Halifax, but I just felt that if I didn't leave now at the end of that season, I was never going to leave, and I knew 8 or 9 players at Halifax were out of contract, and it was going to be another rebuild of a job. And I just felt that time was time, and I had to take one of these opportunities that were being put in front of me. And like I say, with Barrow, there were bigger clubs. There were bigger offers from clubs, and some of them were like, wow. But football management, as we all know, is not a big or long career. I'm going to have another career after football management. So I wanted to make sure it was an incremental rise and I could get myself back in League Two and learn League Two and understand League Two again. So I didn't take maybe one of the bigger clubs, and they demanded promotion, and I fell off the end of the cliff, and my career is over. So it was sort of me, my agent, and my family sort of thinking about what was best for me in my career.
We were just talking before, weren't we? Before we came on air about how, as a fan, seeing everything that's been going on at Latics under Abdallah and all, however many previous years, and it was a disaster. But for you on a personal level, it was the best thing ever, wasn't it? Because it gave you an opportunity out of the blue, and like you've just said, then you've had to consider that. Then that right, I've been very lucky. I've got to make the most of this opportunity, and rather than get excited and maybe go a step too far too quickly, you've been really considered in that. And so, obviously, hopefully now out of the blue, you've got this career in football management, presumably much quicker than you anticipated.
Yeah, I think I always thought I'd get a chance at 34. I didn't think I was going to get that chance so quickly, and certainly as the club I supported. But I do talk tongue in cheek about this, that there seriously was no other coaches left in the building when Abdallah asked me. There was literally no one left. It was either me or the cleaner was doing the game at Port Vale. So you take that opportunity. When somebody presents it within life, you never know when you're ready or when you're going to be ready, but you just got to take them opportunities. And luckily enough for me, you talk about a week in football, Port Vale away, renowned bogey ground for Oldham, and we win 4-1. We then got New Year's Day at home to Notts County, and we win 2-0. And then all of a sudden, I'm on a coach to London, going to Fulham away, and we all know how that ended up. So it was one of them things. But I always say it was the job I always wanted in the circumstances I could never have dreamed of. And at the end of that season, I knew I was offered the job for the next season. But as I've just alluded to there, in terms of my decisions to leave Halifax, it was the same decisions with Oldham. I'd sort of created a little bit of noise about myself. And if I'd have stayed at Oldham, I was convinced with the people that were rolling through the door, and look what happened to Laurent Benide, and I was proved right, that I was going to get sacked. So that could have been me. And 2 out of 3 managers never get a second job. So I walked out of Oldham. I didn't get a pay up. I didn't get anything. I just walked because I thought I'm going to have to try and back myself to try and get another chance in the game.
Did that hurt though? You know, walking through your childhood club, you've watched as a boy and into a man, and you've actually had the experiences of Fulham. You know, we nearly, if we had got beat at Exeter, we could have got into the bloody playoffs, couldn't we? Do you know what I mean? It was one of those unlucky games where it just didn't go for us that day, did it? And it could have been a completely different story for you. You that season in charge at Oldham, couldn't it? We could have been in the playoffs, couldn't we? Did it? Yeah. So did it hurt though to just walk away from it?
It was awful. It was awful because I'd spent so much of my time and my life within the academy and working my way up to that point. So remember, I walked through the door as the assistant under-12s coach and I walked out as the manager. So it was some ride and some journey. But it really hurt. But I just, you got to have that pragmatism and you got to have that sort of, right, well, you got to be sensible about this because it'll hurt more if you're sacked and you're sent out the back door. At least I got to walk out the front door, which not many managers at Oldham in the last 20 years have done. So to walk out of them glass doors was nice instead of rolling out the bins out the back door. But like you say, I mean, that run when we went in the second time around, I made it quite clear to Abdallah that I'm going to do it my way now, and you're going to employ me as the head coach, but we do it our way, me and Chris. We're going to do it our way. And I think because he'd lost hope that anything was going to happen, he just went, yeah, do what you want. Do what you want. And happy days. And we just go out of nowhere, didn't we? We got on a run. And like I say, going into the last week of the season, we really had a chance of being in there. But it was a game too far. You look at Exeter, I look back at Exeter and Newport and them games, and them two teams were right up there and they were right at it. And we were just trying to keep the lads talking to each other.
Ollie Watkins was in that game playing for Exeter, I think, at the time. Look where he is now. Do you know what I mean? So they weren't no mugs, were they? No, and they've always been a good team.
So you knew that you were on a hide into nothing though that following season, didn't you? Because all right, they left you to it at the end of that season, but I remember you very diplomatically saying that you had different visions, but you were on a hide into nothing. It were going to be their way or the highway, wasn't it? And their way didn't work. It didn't matter who was the head coach at Latics while they were in charge. Failure was nailed on it? So,
yeah. Yeah, and I said, like you say, diplomatically, they said that they had a different vision. Listen, they were putting the money in, so they could do what they want.
Yeah,
and you have a decision within any walk of life, in any industry, where you go, right, I either accept what they do and I'm going to do it their way, or I walk because I don't agree with how they're going to do things, and that's how you've got to go in life, haven't you? And I decided that I didn't want to do things their way, and so I had to leave. I had to walk.
And you were dead right, mate, because their way was a load of bloody nonsense, as we know.
Yeah,
Some of the people that were coming in training, and some of the players they were trying to get us to sign. It was like, oh my, we could have gone on Clayton's and picked a better 11.
Were they just unfit, out of fitness, and just not?
Or just not good enough?
Yeah,
well, we know we've seen them, haven't we? We've seen where they are now, a lot of them.
Players. Third division French players who never thought they were going to live in Manchester and they rock up in Oldham and they're like, hang on a minute, this weren't so... It's like the tourism board that's gone wrong. You know, when you get that brochure and it looks beautiful, you get there and you go, oh my God, where have they sent me? It was like that for some of these French lads were coming through the door, white, and go, what on earth am I doing here?
Well, talking of all things wrong, I'm going to bring in one of our great callers, which is Tez. He's got his top on this week, which will disappoint a lot of fans. So we'll bring him in now, Pete.
Yeah,
so brace yourself.
No
Tez! Terry!
He's fallen asleep.
Terry, you in?
I'm doing. Yeah.
Have you got a question for
I
Pete?
know,
Pal?
I was sorry. I was just sending an email on my phone.
Brilliant.
Yeah. In fact, I have, yeah. He calls me to get an hernia.
What?
Wow.
Is that a question?
He did. At Fulham away, I was jumping around that much in that. I've got an hernia and I've got to have an operation. I've still not had it because of COVID.
Hang on a minute.
It's your fault, Pete.
Hang on a minute. Last time you were on with a manager, or Mark White at Dorking, you were asking him for money for a T-shirt because you were topless, and now I can feel you're asking him for an operation to be paid for from Pete. This is not on this.
Well, no, I've done a bit of overtime, so I've got a top on. Done a bit of overtime now.
All right.
Okay. Well, that was your hernia.
So yeah, that's Pete's fault.
Awkward.
So have you got any other questions for Pete then? Sorry, Pete.
Oh, it's still protruding.
Brilliant. My wife just walked into the kitchen for netball and she's looking at me going, what have you signed up to do?
It's still protruding as you walk straight.
No, I haven't. No, I'm just not.
You know what? The line's really bad, which gives us a really good excuse to put you off, Tez.
We've lost you, Tez.
No questions for Pete. I'm just glad to see him doing well. To be fair, you know, but
oh, it keeps on cutting off.
No
worries.
It keeps cutting
no
off,
problem.
Tez, honestly. Sorry, mate.
It's all right. Catch you in a bit, Tez.
See you in a bit, mate.
Yeah, pal.
There you go. At least you got to speak to Tez anyway. So
Yeah.
There you go.
You learned about his hernia. I don't think there's any need to feel guilty about
Let's bring
it.
in
I think he'd
Adrian,
take that at that time. All right, Adrian.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, nice to speak to you.
Can you speak it down?
Turn it down.
There's a delay.
Is that better?
Yeah.
That's miles
Yeah.
better, yeah.
No, well, it's a bit better. I can still
Bit
hear
better.
us. Have you got any headphones?
Yeah. No, I've just got my phone in front of me. Is that better?
Okay. No, not really. You're gonna go and find some headphones. Right, I'm gonna bring Ibby in.
Right, get rid of it.
All right, Ibby.
Evening, guys.
Hey, there we go. This is a
How are you,
normal
mate?
call. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm okay, guys. It's lovely to see Pete Weil on the show. I really respect this fella, what he did for our football club at the time.
How are you, mate? You okay?
I'm okay, Peter, and hopefully one day you will be back at that club, hopefully working for Frank.
That would be good. That would be good. I've
And
never
I
met
can
him,
understand. Yeah, I can understand why you left the club. I want you to do well. I've been following your process very well, and I think you're at a very wonderful club at Barrow, really.
Yeah, really nice people, mate. Yeah, it's going good. It's good. It's an interesting club. A lot of work to do, but it's been a good start.
I feel sorry for Chris at Halifax. He lost yesterday. He seems to be under a bit of pressure.
Yeah, listen, it's tough management. I obviously, he decided to take the job, and fair play to him. He always wanted to have a go at it, and he's now probably going through what I've been through in the past, and I'm sure he'll turn it around. He's got some good players and good people there, so I'm sure he'll turn it around.
Definitely. They beat us last week, and we should have really did something out of that game. And I rate that player at Halifax called Jesse, cracking player.
Yeah, we took him out of Millwall. He was a centre forward at Millwall, and we turned him into a centre half. And to be fair to him, fair play to him. He'll probably go for big money in the summer.
Definitely, and I really hope things go well for you, and hopefully you will attend some Latics games when you can.
Yeah, I've been to a few this year. My lad's got a season ticket, so I do go when I can. I think the next one I've got plans, Woking. We've got a lad on loan at Woking, so I think I'm going to come to that a couple of weeks on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Start of March, that one, Woking.
I'm not sure. And what do you think about David Unsworth being old manager under a bit of pressure?
I think whoever went into the role was going to find it difficult. It wasn't the easiest role to go into, and it's his first role in management. He's got some real good experience in John Ebrell and Franny Jeffers around him. I did my badges with John, so I know John well. But it's a tough gig coming into the National League, and everybody thinks it's an easy league. It's probably harder than League Two because there's such a bottleneck of teams and so many teams wanting to get up, and the finances that are in the league. It's a tough gig for him, and I hope he changes it around. I've spoke to him a couple of times, and I'm desperate for him to do well.
Yeah, he's a nice fella, and what I was disappointed yesterday, first half. But what I like about him, he seemed to get a response in second half. They came out, and then it was a different team, and I'm happy. I left the ground yesterday very happy, but we shouldn't be really conceding silly goals as how we are. But as you know, it's our first season in this difficult league.
Well, he's got loads of experience, so when he's probably had a go at him at half time. And one thing that experienced dressing rooms do is come out, and you'll generally get a reaction out of an experienced dressing room. And I think the second thing is that, unfortunately, in lower league football, generally goals are not scored from good play; they're scored from mistakes, and that's the level. And I think
John Rooney, your ex-player, he was fantastic. He came on, changed the game with Don Gardner.
Yeah, Rooney, did you say? Sorry, pal?
Yeah, John Rooney,
Yeah. Rooney's a good player. Good player. He's had a lot of success at this level. Scored goals, and I always thought he'd do well for the club.
Yeah, I really thank you for letting him out, because I thought we had no chance with him.
Yeah, I mean, the way we were playing was different to the way that suited John. So it had come to a point where we needed to try and help John to try and make sure he got regular football, especially at his time of his career. And Oldham came up, which is great. And I know John's agent's a big Oldham fan, so it works.
Yeah, definitely. Mike and David, what do you think about the playoffs? Is it on or off?
Oh, wow.
Come on, Pete.
Do I think the playoffs are on? Probably. I'd love to dream, but I think consolidation's number one target for Oldham this year, and making sure they get enough points and they build for next year.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys, for having me on the show, and thank you very much, Pete.
Look after yourself.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Cheers.
See you now.
Bye-bye.
We were talking, though, before we bring Adrian back in, about that kind of like in at the deep end kind of scenario. Obviously, for you personally, it couldn't have got any deeper. But even, and you said about David Unsworth's experience, he's got a lot of experience in football. But this challenge is so much different than anything else he's ever had to do. The club is brand new. It's like going into a house that's been left falling to bits for years, and then having to sort of try and do it all up as quickly as possible. There's been all that rebuilding work, plus the sort of football side of things, and the inheriting a squad of players that wasn't good enough. And what a task he's got. And I think, there's two that you'll know as a fan yourself, Pete. There's different camps as to whether they think he's doing a good job or a bad job. But from your own personal experience, can you sort of convey how difficult a job you think it is that he's taken on this season?
I think it's a huge task for him. When you talk about that house analogy, there's somebody living in that house as well. Where he's got to get results, and he's got to try and rebuild a football club whilst getting results and try to save his own job. So it's a mammoth task he's taken on. Like you say, I remember watching us pre-season and thinking, this squad's not going to do well in the National League. And he's had to try and rebuild. He's tried to bring in experience. He's made some mistakes, like we all do in recruitment. But then with Tomo coming in on the recruitment side, I think that's the first step towards trying to get them to recruit players. But then Tomo and his staff can only get to 1-2 games a weekend. So trying to get around and understand the league and understand the players. And I speak to Tomo at the head of recruitment quite a lot, talking about players and players at the level, because that is a tough ask. And David, like you say, is his first job in management. So he's learning how to be a manager. He's learning the league. He's learning what the demands are of the league and how the league comes. And I remember speaking to Paul Cook last year when he first went into Chesterfield, and him saying to me, I thought there'd be 2 or 3 teams where it'd be really tough, and the others it'd just be a much of a muchness. I was really surprised how strong the league was. And I don't know that with David, because I haven't got into that depth with David around that. But I think a lot of people come into this league thinking that there's 2 or 3 toughies and the rest of it will just be a much of a muchness. So I think he's had to learn, and he's learned some harsh lessons early on, but all them harsh lessons can only make him better as a manager. Remember Neil Ardley when I first did the New Year's Day when we're doing Oldham, and Neil saying to me, I'll never slag another management off because I know how hard it is. It is so hard to win a game of football. There's so many permutations in a game of football, and anybody who's prepared to put their head above the parapet and be a manager, fair play to him, because it is so difficult to win a game of football.
In terms of like formations, and we've touched on this with Mark White, but when you do the formation, you set it up all week and it looks really good on the training ground, and you get on the pitch and it just clearly doesn't work. How many games do you give it, or how much time do you give it before you actually change it and just revert back to the simple 4-4-2? Because I think Sheridan said it in the past that when it's all going wrong, he went to Paul Jewell when he couldn't win a game at Latics when he first started, and Paul Jewell went, go back to basics and just go to 4-4-2. And I think the Latics went on a run in the 2001-2002 season. We went on a run for about 10 games where we didn't get beat. So is that like you get out of jail card sort of it as a manager sort of thing sometimes?
I think formations are a myth. I think fans use them to berate managers with, and 5 yards here and there. Formations are a complete myth. That a 4-3-3 5 yard on can look like a 4-4-2 and vice versa. So I think formations are a bit of a myth. I think the biggest learning in football is whatever you want to be, how you want your team to play, you've got to recruit that way. So it's the recruitment will eat formations for breakfast. You've got to go and get, what does a left back look in your team? What do you want that left back to do? What do you want that centre half to do? What do you want that centre forward to do? And et cetera, et cetera. So I think the answer to your question is you've got to recruit the way you want to play, recruit a style of how you want to play based on what's already in the building, because you generally walk into what you've got in the rebuilding and then adapt accordingly. But I think if you first got to understand how you want to play, then recruit that way, then work. And if plan A don't work, don't go to plan B, work harder on plan A. Right. Because the definition of chaos is having a plan and coming away from it. But if you don't know what your plan is to start off with, you're knackered. So I look at Barrow. I knew exactly how I wanted to play when I walked in, and that wasn't formational. That was the types of players I need. We run and we run and we run, and we're going to run all over you. We're not bothered about having the football, but when we have the football, we'll do something with it. So I need players who are prepared to run and tackle and fight. And then if they can play footed, that's great. But it's not. It's a byproduct.
That's a really interesting answer. Thank you for that.
I think bringing that back round to Unsworth as well, though, in Oldham, it's what he's there. We've got a good coaching setup. Good coaches, a lot of experience. But like you said, somebody who doesn't know the league, doesn't know the players. So that recruitment structure, that scouting network for our coaching team to say these are the type of players that we want, go out and find them. That's essential, and that wasn't there until not that long ago. The season was well underway before that came in. So it's probably harsh to judge too harshly until that is actually starting to pay off in terms of the people who know the league and know the players and who are out there recruiting are able to do their job properly, and then Unsworth and his team have got time to coach them properly.
you look at the higher echelons. Darren Rowell, no Darren Wealth. Loads of conversations with Darren. Nobody in the higher echelons of the building knows the league either, because they've all come from League One, Championship, the Premier League. So there's nobody in the building that actually knows the league. So that's very difficult, because you're going off recommendations. You're going off people who've previously done well at the level, Hogan's, Rooney's, etc., who've done well at the level. But you haven't really got that right. Well, I'll use Solomon, who we got from Woking, Solomon Nabeki. We took, everybody going, why have you took a kid from Woking to come to Barrow? Because he fits exactly how we want to do things. So until you know the league and the level, and hopefully across this season, they're looking at players and going, he's decent. At the end of the year, let's go for him. He's decent. We like him. And that little black book becomes bigger and bigger across the season. That makes League Two in the National, Season 2 in the National League a lot better, because you've done your homework on players of the level. You know the level, and you know the demands of the level. I look at League Two. I probably a little bit naive going into League Two, thinking it's the same as the National League. We'll do the same things. And what I've learned is that in the National League, you can have a bad 20 minutes and get away with it. In League Two, you can't. And in League Two, there is even less teams who want to play. The teams that are doing well are the ones who are just open at you and grind you down until you make mistakes. And in the National League, there's more teams that play footy.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that this season, for sure. Yeah, we've got a few callers lined up now, so we're going to play our new jingle and then bring one in.
Yeah.
Latics football phone-in.
Bet you're impressed with that, aren't you, Pete?
That was my high-pitched singing.
No expenses spared there, lads.
I know, yeah. Even with it had a Tangerine Roger Palmer in it. Adrian, let's see if we can hear you better now.
I've got headphones on. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, no, we can hear you, yeah.
That's
By the
good,
way,
yeah.
have you got something you'd like to ask Pete?
I've got a couple of things I want to ask Pete, but there's a couple of things I want to sort of say beforehand. I went to the Halifax game, and it was so disappointing. I couldn't even listen to the game last night, but I'm so glad we won. You know, I just cross my fingers every time we play at the moment. But I want to move away from that. I've been looking. I think Matt told you. I was lucky enough to get a load of programs from Oldham Athletic from a long, long time ago. I've got one here. I've got one here for Pete. It's Barrow versus Oldham Athletic from the 10th of April 1971.
Wow!
So he can have that one, because I think he deserves that one. But on the same subject, I sort of stayed up a bit late last night, and I was looking through the programs, and back in the 60s, 61, 62, they have editorials in the programs, and they're fantastic to read. And I want to assure a lot of the Oldham fans that the things we're going through now, they were going through those things in the 1960s. So this is nothing new. You know, we had a shit pitch. We had a shit team. You know, it's nothing new. It's just cyclical. You know, it really is. So, you know, it's nice to think of it in that way. You know, things are going to get better, but it's a joy to go through these programs. And I'm going to kind of, I don't know if there's the Supporters Foundation have got like any thoughts on a kind of like museum or anything, but I'm going to collate these and donate them, because they're such good reading. They're fantastic. And it's such a joy to read them.
I'm an ambitious guy, AJ.
Look at that.
Look at building a musium, but maybe we could
look at that. Look at. Can you see that? Can you see that? Look at that. Fantastic. Nice. Anyway, that's what, you know. I'll spend a few days looking at it. Yeah, fantastic. I mean, got another one. Look at that. That's great, isn't it? Can you see that?
What's your question?
My question. I've got two questions for Pete.
Go ahead.
The first one is, I want to know, as a manager, Pete, what do you consider to be most important things that you need to nurture with regards to the relationship between yourself as a manager and your players? How do you keep them on board? What are the key signs when you think things aren't going quite right? Because it seems to me you're pretty good at that. That's the first question.
Number one is environment, mate. You've got to get the environment right. In the modern world, the environment looks very different to probably the four of us sat on this screen here now that we were brought up in. That it was very much, you do it my way or you go. So the environment and getting a common sense, values are talked about a lot, and culture's talked about a lot, but culture's got to be lived, not laminated. And there's a lot of footy clubs that will have loads of words on walls and we're going to be this and quotes from Michael Jordan and all this nonsense. But it's very much about having sort of good common values. Well, ours are be authentic, have a winning mentality. So whether we're playing a small-sided game in training, etc., there's a winning mentality, and be good people. So we've got a strapline this year of be a version of the town, and people in any industry will fall out of line about every 6 weeks, and it's about just, well, we decided we wanted to be this. We all decided we wanted to live our lives for this next year like this, and my job is to keep bringing them back to that. Well, you want it to be that, and you want it to be that. And then a lot of that's built around trust. And I always say to all the players, all the staff, is I trust you all. I trust you all implicitly. But if you break my trust, you'll be gone. There's no.
Yeah, I just think that's really important. I think it's kind of important with what's happening at Oldham at the moment, because there's sort of questions about the relationship within the club in terms of the football inside of the, And I just wanted to ask you that, but that's really great. Thanks for that. Thanks for answering that.
I think that comes from recruitment as well, mate. You've got to recruit good people. Don't recruit the best players. Recruit the best people. The best players will let you down. The best people won't. So I think, again, I mean, I've said it twice this evening. Recruitment's key. Going. I get recommendations. So we're going to sign a player. I'll ring his last couple of managers up. I'll ring somebody who's been in his dressing room with him. I'll speak to people about who they are before they come in. I have a centre half last year that I spun round on the motorway. We were signing him, deal was done. I got a phone call saying, "Why are you signing him? He is not your type of player." And I spun him round the motorway and told him the deal was off.
But is the recruitment, how many people are involved in the recruitment at Barrow then, Pete?
So there's me, my assistant, first team coach, head of analysis, director of football. We all have our say, but because I walked in the building and went, my left back looks like that, my centre half looks like that, and they then go away and they go and get me options of that type of player, and then we look to send. We don't just sign when I sign a player, we put videos together of them around what they do well and how we're going to make them better. Well, you're good at this, and this is why we want you, but we're going to give you this and make you better in that area. And we go away and we put a pitch to them. So Jed Garner, who's just signed from Fleetwood. I've been trying to sign Jed for 3 years. Why? Because he's my type of number 10 and number 9. He fits.
So is it a collective decision, or is it? Do you have the final say?
Everybody has their input, but at the end of the day, I have to. It's my head on the chopping board. I have to go. Yeah, I want him. Or
that's clear. Yeah. That's quite clear. That's quite clear. And then the next question. It's about my last joyous day watching Oldham Athletic. Purely joyous day. It was Fulham. It was a famous Fulham victory, which was absolutely fantastic. It was fantastic. You doing your leap on the touchline. I don't know if you've done that since, but one thing I'd like to ask is I remember being in the stand, and I remember, the officials from the club coming on the pitch, and I just think it was just on the cusp of the Lemsagum's takeover. So can you tell me who was on that pitch that after the final whistle went? And your recollection of what happened, because it was a brilliant day. I couldn't speak because I had problems with my throat, but that was the last time for me that I'd been, fooled with emotion, because it was a brilliant, brilliant day.
In terms of officials, I remember Mo and Abdallah being on there. I even think
they weren't on there. They weren't.
They were.
Abdallah definitely was.
Abdallah and Mohammed definitely were on there.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
I actually even think Simon Blitz and his lad were on the pitch, if I remember rightly. I think they were both on the pitch as well. As for any other officials, I ain't got a clue.
In terms from the club, because that was a kind of that was a turning point, wasn't it? That was for me. That was the last time. Things went badly wrong from there on in, didn't they? Do you think?
Yeah. Well, I think they were on the turn before that, but it was. That was an interesting time for the football club. Abdallah travelled down on the coach with us. I don't think that's the first time I've ever seen a chairman jump on the coach with us to an away game. He travelled down with us on the coach. But in terms of the day, phenomenal. I mean, you know, when you look up at the stand, and out of 4,000 people, I probably knew 1,500 of them were.
I tell you what, I've got it on YouTube, and I've got it on YouTube. I'm not a very technical savvy IT person, but I watch that and it makes me cry. You know, it really does. You know, it was so good. You know, but there's been yeah, all right.
Yeah, we've got some more callers to get through, mate. But
thanks for having me on, and good luck, Pete. Cheers, mate.
Cheers, yeah, we'll bring Paul in now. You've been waiting patiently.
Hi, Paul.
How you doing? Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we've got you, mate.
Oh, brilliant. Nice one. Hiya, Pete.
Hi, Paul.
Good. Yeah, just to echo the last call there, I think Fulham was amazing. Absolutely amazing. One of them memories that, you know, in the last 10 years, we have very few of. So thanks for that.
Not a problem.
Just a question for me relating to the current season. Just to get your thoughts, really, because I didn't go last night. I was a season ticket holder with my family, and I went with my dad at the weekend and saw probably one of the worst games ever. And then we went behind at before halftime last night, and I'm thinking, oh my God, here we go again. After thinking before Saturday's game, we're on the turn.
Yeah. And
then we obviously pull off this great result last night, and it sounded awesome. What do you think the reason is for the sort of, you know, the highs and lows? Do you think it's just confidence in the players, or is still gelling? What are your thoughts?
I think there's a couple of things. I think Oldham away is a big game for people. If I was at Halifax and going to Oldham on Saturday, and I obviously know Chris well, they'll big that game up as this is Oldham away. This is a massive game. And we've got to take that into consideration that Oldham away, for me, would have been huge last season. Notts County, Chesterfield. There ain't many. For all the Wheelstones, Maidenheads, etc., and some of these random grounds, Oldham away is a biggie. We actually played them in a friendly the other month, and we went there, and you're like, this is a League One minimum ground. So people will raise the game when they come to Oldham, and it's about how we deal with that. And also, like you say, the team's been not thrown together, but moved together across the season. It's still in its infancy of trying to gel. I talk about partnerships all the time. The more two centre halves play together, the better they get as a partnership. The more a fullback and a winger play together, the better they get a partnership. And David's, because of the indifferent results, he's probably trying to find out what his best team is still, and then giving them time to gel as a partnership's tough. So I think there's all them things going on, and all them things that he's trying to fight with that are not easy, manager. When you lose, do you stick with this? If you stick with the same 11 when you lose, do you lose half the dressing room because they think, well, we've lost, you should be playing me now? There's all that things that you have to sort of think about. But what's the best for the club? What's the best for the squad? I'm not on the training ground at Chapel Road every year, so I have no idea how they're training, how they're playing, how they're behaving. And they're all the things that across the week a manager's got to take into consideration. And he knows whatever 11 he picks, there'll be people in the stand that think he's wrong. There'll be people in his dressing room that think he's wrong. And that's the art of football, and that's the nature of football. That's why we love it. And that's why at 5 o'clock, you normally see managers absolutely ecstatic because they've just spent the last hour and a half, for want of a better phrase, shitting themselves.
Pete, on that, I've got a question for you, right? Because you're a fan.
Yeah,
and you've spent a lot of time watching from the stands with the fans, but now you're a manager, you know, and you're doing really well. But every fan, like you just referred to, thinks that they're a manager, right? Has got this. How would you judge fans' knowledge against actually what it takes? You know what I mean? Because we sit here and we listen and we watch on social media. I don't know, football. We're all entitled to our opinions. How off the mark are fans, generally speaking? Would you say, like, if you were to chuck them into a dressing room, right, go on then, manage your team. You know, like, are we all just off our heads or what?
It's funny. Watching England's the worst thing because we're all fans of England. I could punch the full pub when watching England. I can't stand watching England in a pub. I'm just starting my pro license, so I'm going to give you a little analogy. Gareth Southgate comes and talks to us. Gareth Southgate's icebreaker is, come on then, it's 2024. It's the first game of the Euros. Pick your England team. And you've got a raft of really experienced coaches in the room. So we all pick our team, and he's dead candid. Fair play to you, Gareth. And then, right, goalkeeper, and some of us have gone Pickford, Nick Pope, I think somebody else. Don't matter. Right, okay. The only the ones with Pope move on to the next stage. Right, who's your right back? And then Walker, blah, blah. The only ones with Walker move to the next stage. And basically what he was saying is that there's 24 of you in the room, and there's 24 different teams, and try and be the manager within that. So I think the easiest answer to give you is that you've got to look at, when you reflect on a game, right, okay, who did well, right? You look at your next opponent, right, what are they, where are their problems, and how we're going to negate them, or how we're going to exploit them? What have they been like in training all week? Is he carrying a knock? Is he half a yard off it? Is he half a yard on it? Did he do well last week? Have I got a gut feeling he might do well against these because he did well at their place against them? All them things are going off in your mind of whether you stick or twist. And all the fans are privy to is, well, my bias is this because I like him. Or he done all right last week because he ran around, so I like him. And it's all them things that come into the pot that you have to then decide on a Thursday or a Friday morning, or some managers even leave it till 2 hours before kick. I know managers who don't name the team till 1 o'clock on a Saturday. And high-profile managers, by the way, at that. So there's all that going off in your mind to try and pick a team, and you know you're going to be wrong. And one of the things that Gareth Southgate said, he's at peace, he's at one with knowing that people disagree with him. And I think as a manager, you just have to be at peace with, you know you're going to annoy some people, and you might make some people happy. That was a long-winded answer. I do apologize.
It was good answer.
No, it was a good answer.
Great
answer.
answer.
I mean, that's the whole point, though. It's the kind of answer that you can give because you're in that position. Whereas as a fan, you know, you don't. And I don't think, and this has been part of my thing, but it's too easy to just say this and say that about this and that. You don't know what's going. Yeah, the other thing is personal lives. You don't know what's going on in a player's personal life. What kind of distractions they've got. You don't know what's going on in a manager's life, a coach. We're not privy to that. These are young men living their lives, with families, with this, that, and the other, all kinds of issues and stuff. And so I get annoyed when people jump on players' backs and start giving them untold abuse because he had a bad half an hour. You know what I mean?
I hate the fact that the one they don't care. No player, I'm telling you now, no player, no manager goes out there and doesn't care. The mortgages, everything is on the line every week. They care. But like in any other role, in any other business, some weeks, some days, it don't go your way.
Yeah. Are the other questions, Paul?
No, I think that was brilliant. I think, again, just touching on that, I'm not one that boos, but again, it must affect players when fans are booing.
Yeah, it does, mate.
After half an hour or whatever.
Yeah, it does, because when it's not going your way, you need somebody to lift you. You need people to get behind you and say, come on. Yeah. And if you have the adverse, you know what it's like. If your manager's berated you at work and then keeps berating you, he ain't going to get the best out of you, is he? He's going to...
No, absolute opposite.
Since you've been at 3 clubs now, Pete, is there a difference in the fans at each of those clubs? And does maybe the weight of expectation and history maybe play a role in that, do you think, in terms of how the fans react?
Yeah, I think fans have been very lucky that the clubs I've been at the right end of the table. In the last week of every season I've been in football, I've been playing for something at the right end of the table. So expectations do rise. And then when you look at Barrow at the moment, we get pumped at Carlisle in our local derby last Tuesday night, 5-1. But because our expectations have risen now, that is a disaster for them. Well, if we just go back and we roll back and we're 29 games in, we're 2 points outside the playoffs, sitting in 10th, the highest that you've ever been since you've been back in the league. Let's put everything into context. And I think the job of the manager at times is to provide context and clarity all the time. So, all right, okay. Because footy season does that, don't they? No, unless you're Man City, Liverpool or Arsenal this year, your footy season generally bumps like a dusty road, doesn't it? But and it's the team that finds the consistency when they have the bad times, because every team has a bad time. It's the teams that come out that come and find the consistency quickest that generally do all right. And I think as a manager, you just got to make sure clarity, and really drive home in the bad times. Well, let's give this some perspective. And the same at Oldham at the moment. The perspective is that the new owners are trying to find their feet and find a way forward for the footy club. I would argue now that the match day experience at Oldham is fantastic. But now we're just looking for everything on the pitch to drop into place, and I'm sure it will.
Thanks, Paul.
Brilliant. No worries. Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Take care, mate. See you soon.
Paul. Thanks,
Bye.
mate.
Bye.
We're going to bring in quick question off Michael Keegan.
Hi, Mike.
Where will we finish this year, Pete?
I think we've got to try and push as far as we can to, if we could be around mid-table being, I mean, Utopia's got to be bottom of the top half, isn't it? But if we can be in around that mid-table, I think that is very tangible. Getting 4 or 5 wins on the row and 4 or 5 good results on the bounce in this league, and you start to move quite quickly. So we can
this
put some
run's
wins
massive,
together.
isn't it?
Yeah, there's another one off Dale.
Gateshead and Maidstone, 2 games.
Yeah,
there's another one off Dale. If you could sign one Oldham player to Barrow, who would it be?
I don't really like talking about other clubs and other clubs' players.
All right, fair enough.
I'll tell you, it's really surprised me this year that I hadn't really seen a lot of, but I've seen a bit of this year and think he's got a lot of potential. Is Ben Tollett. Now that doesn't mean you're coming off here and saying I want to sign Ben Tollett. That is not. I'm saying there's a young lad there that I think got loads of potential that I've really enjoyed watching. And the last time I came, Will Sutton, I think Will was one of the last ones we recruited into the academy before I left, and I think young Will's got a lot of potential. He's got an old head and young shoulders. He's got a really settled mentality.
Well, I've just texted on League Paper, The Sun, and the MEN, so that's out now. So sorry about nice 20 grand there. I'm only joking. We're going to bring in Si. So, Si, are you there, mate?
Yeah, I am. Hiya, guys.
Nice, Si.
Thanks for waiting.
No, that's okay, mate. That's okay. So, first of all, I'd just like to echo Pete. It's great to have you on the show. I think, if I'm being honest, it would have been a match made in heaven if we would have recruited you as manager when Frank took over. There was rumours that you were approached, but I won't go there and I won't put you on the spot, so don't worry about that, mate. I've got a couple of questions, if I may. So, first of all, Harry Vaughan.
Yes.
So it's a player who's polarised a lot of fans in terms of whether he should have stayed or whether he should have went to Hull, and you can't knock him because he's done brilliantly. So, would you, if you were Oldham manager, would you have played him?
I think with Harry again, Harry was one of the young. I think he was 15 when I was still working in the academy. He came at 15. He's loads of potential, really good footballer. I just don't think where the club's at the moment and where Harry is in terms of his development, for David to put Harry in and to give him the types of games he needs, I just don't think that where the club are in the league and what it needs at the moment, that we're at the same point in time, and you then have a decision to make. If you're not going to play the player, what's the best for that player's development and for the football club? Does he become? So he's not going to be a football asset to you. So does he then become a financial asset? And let's have it right. Frank's thrown a lot of money at this footy club. I think it's only fair that if we're not going to use him as a football asset, then he becomes a financial asset, and it offsets against the huge amount of money that the Rothwell family put in. And I think it was the right decision.
Thanks for that. And next question is Benny Couto. What do you think? Do you think he's a defender or do you think he's a winger?
Do you know what? I haven't seen a lot of Benny because of when it was last season. I've seen him play a couple of times. He strikes me as a modern fullback that's more of an attacking player than he is a defensive player. I think if you play him as a winger, Benny looks like a lot of his career he's played as a fullback. For a fullback to play up one, it's tough because instead of making late runs and running onto the ball, the ball's on top of them and the players are on top of them. I think it's very tough for them to adapt. The honest answer is probably his best role would be a wing back, wouldn't it? But again, I think he needs a run of games in a position, in a formation that's set, that'll probably get the best out of Benny.
Brilliant. Cheers.
Thanks,
And then
Simon.
cheers. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Are you sure you don't want to ask again? You're just going to say one more thing?
Well, yeah, just the last one. So when we get into the playoff final, are you going to go?
Of course I am, mate. I'm dead right. We're front and centre. Absolute day out, mate.
I'll be there with you, mate.
Cheers. Thanks, Si.
Good one. Cheers. Bye.
Going to bring in Yatesy. Hello, Yatesy. Bye-bye, Yatesy. Daryl.
Hi, mate.
Hi, Daryl.
How are you doing? Have you got a question for Pete?
Yeah, finally got on. It was me last week who said how you phone in.
All right, fair enough.
I finally sussed out how to do it.
There we go.
Anyway, Pete, nice to speak to you. About the game at Fulham, unfortunately, my lad had got me a ticket for the Fulham game, but I had an operation planned on the Monday.
Oh.
So there's no way I could have travelled down to Fulham and got back going for an operation on the Monday.
Wow.
On the Sunday night, they phoned me and cancelled an operation. I was absolutely gutted.
I wouldn't have been on the end of that phone call, mate.
Oh, I tell you what, I was absolutely gutted. But I watched it on TV, and my God, my lad told me what it was like. It was absolutely amazing. He couldn't believe it. It's probably the best day out he's had because he's only 30. I've had a few better ones than that as well. Well, not better, but just as good.
I know what you mean, mate. Yeah.
Because I'm at the ripe old age of nearly 60 now, so I've been there, I've seen that, got the T-shirt.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you for 1 second, Darryl, but like on that point, like I was at the game with my nephew last night, and he's 7, and I said to him, "Which is your favourite game for Latics?" And he went, "Either Dorking or Eastleigh at home this season." So it's about perspective. It's about perspective, isn't it? You know.
Yeah. Sorry, where's Dorking? Right. Anyway, Pete, glad to see you doing well at Barrow. Anyway,
thanks, Matt.
I was a bit peed off that you left Oldham, to be honest, because I thought you were the guy who would have took us forward. If we hadn't had the people in charge that we had then, enough said about them pair people. I won't say it, but it's to do with goats. If it weren't for them, and we would have had a better owners and whatever, would you have stayed at Oldham? Would you have continued to do what you were doing?
Yeah,
you were doing well. You started well.
Yeah. It was a job, like I said before, it was the job I always wanted in the circumstances I never dreamed of. And it was, don't get me wrong, on reflection now at 34, there's no way I was ready for what was going on. There was a lot.
It seemed like it. It seemed like you were ready.
There's a lot propelled at me. And you imagine, like, at that time, I was one that was always just around writing and around knocking around and maybe didn't deal with the situation well off the pitch, and it was literally a whirlwind. You'd go for like a paper in the morning and somebody'd have an opinion, and I'm like, oh my God, I'd be like walking around Tesco's just getting my stuff, and somebody'd be talking to me, and I'm like, wow, I don't think I'm ready for this. But what an experience. It gave me a platform and was great experience, and the things I had to deal with and the things that were put in front of me. Probably managers could go whole careers and not have some of the things that I had to deal with and have to try and sort of maneuver around in them 4 or 5 months.
And is it true about this dressing room? You play him, you can't play him, don't play him.
Listen, we had a director of football who liked to have an input. Let's put it at that.
Correct.
Right, cheers, Harold.
Enough said about that. Thanks a lot. By the way, I'm from Stoke. I'm living in Stoke, so
unlucky, mate.
Never mind.
What do you mean unlucky?
We've been to Stoke. That's why we
Well, I live in a nice village, so it's all right.
Beautiful.
All right, guys. Thanks very much, and good luck for whatever you do.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Right.
Listen.
So we've had all these questions now from all the callers, but now it's our turn. Are you ready for some?
Go for it.
The QFQs.
Quick fire questions.
That's quick fire question. Right, red sauce or brown sauce?
Brown sauce.
Rugby league or rugby union?
Rugby league.
Vic or Bob?
Vic.
Dennis Irwin or Earl Barrett?
Earl Barrett, because I never saw Dennis play.
Mike Milligan or John Sheridan?
I've got to say John, because I work for him.
Barry Owen or the Devil?
The Devil.
Oasis or Blur?
Oasis.
Cricket or golf?
Cricket.
EastEnders or Corrie?
Oh, Corrie.
Chinese or a curry?
Curry.
United or City?
Neither.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Rolling Stones or the Beatles?
Rolling Stones.
Jackson 5 or Jackson Pollock?
Jackson 5.
Well, that's it. The quick fire questions. You're all done, mate. Yeah.
Well done. Yeah, you handled them well. That's the kind of nerves of steel you need to be a football manager.
And a great answer on Barry Owen or the Devil.
Yeah, no, well, there's only one. I think maybe the same.
Well, it's pretty obvious.
It could be the same thing, though.
No, he's not clever enough for them.
No, well, the Devil moves in mysterious ways. Anyway, so yeah, we're going to keep it to an hour, Pete, because obviously we could talk to you all night about all things Latics and all things football in general. But it's been really good insight into, I think, pretty much what every one of us wants to be, an Oldham fan and a football manager. But very, very few of us get to live that. You know, I mean. You must feel very, very blessed in where you are, because I'm sure you've worked very, very hard to get where you are as well. But you must be like living the dream at the minute, mate. It must be fantastic.
It is, and I'm very humble as well. Very humble to have an opportunity. I was an apprentice mechanic. My mum and dad are boozers, and I came from what I call say to the players every morning. I come from the real world, lads, and I'm happy to go back to the real world when it's all over. I'm going to enjoy the ride as long as it lasts, and when it's all over, I'll go back to normal life and get myself a proper job and crack on. So, very humbled, very thankful for my family and for people who've propelled me into this position. And I'm just going to work as hard as I can. And when it's over, it's over, and I'll enjoy the ride.
And you can, when it all goes to a crashing end, you can come and be a phone-in host like me or Matt. So it's always that. I'm only kidding. No, mate. There's honestly, you've been humble. You're brilliant. You're such a great fella, and you've been brilliant all week. And thanks for answering all the questions from all the fans, and even our quick fire questions as well.
Yeah. The next time I see you at Railway, I'll buy you a pint.
That's the problem with being a manager now these days. You got to pick and choose when you go for a beer.
Yeah,
and also we'll see you in the playoff final. Hopefully, if it all goes well for David. There's 17 games left, so you never know.
Well, listen, nothing gives us better pleasure. Like I say, my lad, season ticket Oldham, massive Oldham fan. All his mates are Oldham fans. All my mates are Oldham fans. So you can imagine, I don't get a minute's rest from it all.
Pete,
we wouldn't have it any other way, would we?
Thank you ever so much.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks for having us. Much appreciated.
No, we've really enjoyed it. All the best, pal.
Take care.
The Boundary Park Alert System is hosted and produced weekly by Matt Dean, Andy Halliwell and Dave Bradley. A huge thank you goes to those people who already subscribe to the podcast. We appreciate you all, and if you'd like to help us out financially, please visit oafcpodcast.co.uk and click support or find the link in the show notes. It's only $2.99 a month to subscribe, but if you'd rather make a one-off donation, please visit buymeacoffee.com/OAFC podcast or click the link on our website. Please follow and interact with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and TikTok at OAFC Podcast, and subscribe to youtube.com/@OAFC Podcast, where you will find the Latics Football Phone-In with myself and Dave Bradley live every Wednesday from 8:30 p.m. We'd like to thank Arlene Finnegan for writing our excellent weekly blog, which we encourage you to read on our website every Saturday morning. And thanks also goes to Paul Prendergast for providing us with all the Latics Mind questions. The title music for the show is by Manchester DJ and producer Starion, and for more information visit bandcamp.com/Red Laser Records. You can help change the game by listening to us on the Fan Hub app along with all major podcast platforms. Please like, subscribe and review the pod and help us climb the rankings to get more listeners wherever you listen. Thank you for listening, and if you'd like to be a guest or contribute to the show in any way, we'd love to hear from you. See you next week.